day.
Haven't seen them.
They talk to us daily.
I know,
Just
every
saying.
day.
They
It's
really
'cause
like
we're-
the spotlight.
We're doing all the work, they're doing all the talking, see how that works? I know how, yeah.
We'll tell them you said that later today.
Yeah.
Yeah, let them all say that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
we're
pass
giving
it.
the house a hard time because we only do media availability once a week, you guys do it, yeah. So it's because we're doing all the work, they're doing all the talking, so. We love our Senate counterparts, so. Okay, should we get started?
Good to go.
Cameras are ready? Okay. Well, we'll get into questions here pretty quick because I don't really have anything, but thank you again for being up here and covering the legislative process and keeping people informed. We really enjoy that and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys. So let's just jump into questions because I know you guys don't usually like the stuff I say at first. So who's first?
Representative
Yeah.
Burton, I would love to talk to you, have you been discussing any changes with the Senate to your HB 300, your election bill with Senator McKell? Is there a middle ground between you and the Senate on that bill?
Yeah, we've had several discussions, and we started these discussions long before the session, and we've had several since. We even brought in the county clerks, and we've done that several times with the county clerks, and we found some common ground. And so those discussions continue, and I assume that they will continue. The option or the doors were open, and we communicate very clearly on what we think needs to happen. And of course, they'll have to say when the bill gets to them.
What changes might you be willing to consider, and what did they want, I guess?
Well, I think the one thing I can say is right now we're talking about the frequency with which you need to opt in to vote by mail. That's one thing we're talking about with them.
Yeah, and also I think mentioned the service for people to go out and get, where the people that are in nursing homes and different things that can't get out to register to vote.
Yeah, of course.
That's a concern.
Probably a tactical error on my part because that's already in code and we're just moving it over to this bill so it's more visible. Back in 2014, House Bill 245 talked about emergency voting procedures for folks who are infirm or incapable of getting out, and that's in code now. They vote electronically, and that will remain in place.
So that's the beauty of this process, right? So we know there's some concerns out there. We've been working closely with the clerks to address these concerns. We've been working closely with the Senate to address these concerns. I think we'll continue to work to make changes to address the concerns that are out there. I understand there are some valid concerns that are out there that we're going to continue to work through. But we want to make sure that we can stand up and say that we have secure elections and that we're no longer in the bottom third of the states as far as House for secure elections. And so we're going to keep working through this process and make our elections process better while addressing the valid concerns that are brought up. The Senate has some valid concerns that we're having conversations around, and we know how this process works. We can pass something out of the House, and if it goes nowhere in the Senate, then we've wasted a lot of time. So we're collaborating, we're working well together. Hopefully at the end of the day we find a place that is ultimately what's best for our system, best for the voters.
The Senate seems concerned with the actual having to bring your ballot, mail-in ballot back in, not so much the ID, showing ID or validating in some other way, more secure way as you guys want to have. Are you willing to give on that portion of it? Because that seems like the biggest piece to me that flips mail-in voting on its head. It's not really mail-in voting, it's getting your ballot by
Let me
mail.
answer it this way. The problem we were trying to solve is the mail. We know that the mail isn't as reliable as we would like it to be. We could cite what happened during the 2024 election in one particular place, but there's more. The curing process, if you look at the numbers, 4% of the ballots in the state weren't validated. That's 20,000 votes that were people that were disenfranchised in their vote. And so, and also the other data point I want to bring up is 65% of Utahns did return their ballot using a drop box, validating the idea that they're concerned about the mail. And so that is the back end of this process. That's one of the things we're trying to fix. and make more secure.
If the postal service was getting better, I think there would be not as much concern moving forward. But I think it's fair to say the postal service is not getting better. In fact, a fair argument that they're continuing to get worse.
And not showing ID was what you guys wanted to solve.
That's the main part of it, but there is also the concern around the postal service component too. So, those are all valid concerns that we're trying to have the discussion around. You know, the discussion was just had the other day, 5 days isn't enough. Said, okay, let's go 10 days. And honestly, most people will be driving past one of these polling locations in that 10-day window. And so, as I'm out talking to people, I was talking to people last night, and they said, well, we're nervous about this. And I said, you have 5-10 days, and all you have to do is drop it off and show ID. You're like, oh, that's not that bad. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there in the public around this. And again, the vast majority of people believe that they should be showing IDs at the time
Yeah.
they vote. So,
But a lot of people still wait to the last minute. I mean, I sit out there at drop boxes all the time watching this, and so is there plans to address if you create traffic jams by, you have your drop boxes that have to be staffed from 8P to 8 or 8A to 8P, and then you have to show your ID. I mean, doesn't this create like a traffic jam at every single drop box?
No, not necessarily, and that's why we're talking about increasing the number of days. And the bottom line is, education's part of that, and I think we're gonna improve our website so people know what's going on. They'll know exactly what they need to do, so education's always a big piece of this. We understand human nature, Ben, and people do often wait till the last minute. But if the education process lets them know that they need to vote early, we think over time they'll understand that and learn how to do it, and we'll have enough hours that we believe if we execute this properly, it won't be a
Look.
traffic jam.
look, if there ends up being lines on election day, we failed, right? And that's one of the clerk's concerns, and that's one of the things that we're working through right now with the clerks, so that there isn't lines, so that it is a seamless process. It can really move pretty quickly if you have the right process in place. The ballot's already filled out, you walk up, drop the ballot off, and show your ID, and it can move pretty quick. And so, those are the concerns that we're working through with the clerks to make sure that there are not lines, so that so it can be quick. If there's lines, people are gonna be upset and are not gonna vote, and that will be a problem. So that is one of the goals, to make sure that those things are addressed.
If
Is
I
the
can
state
make
gonna
another point
cover the
real quick,
cost?
please, just this one point. Part of this that we're also solving with this is once that ballot has been validated and goes into a lockbox, it's delivered to the county clerks each night from those locations. Those are ready to go. So that when the election night hits, if you look at the surveys and the polls, one of the biggest problems people had with voting was that they sat there and they watched CNN or Fox, and they wondered why Utah couldn't get the results reported. People on the East Coast had reported the results. We were days and days after the election to report the results. And this bill will help fix that.
And I just gotta point out, we have 3 election audits now, and the auditors, one of their top things is, because signatures are so subjective, you have to tighten up the signature verification process. And this is a point that everybody's missing. This has to happen. When you tighten up that signature threshold, to fall in line, to have security, to make sure that we're not having people cheating in the process. Then it goes from 4% of ballots that didn't get counted on the cure list to 8 or 10%. And the process that people have to go through to get those ballots cured is cumbersome. And the process that the counties have to go through to cure those ballots are cumbersome, which then delays that's why we're so late on certifying our elections, is because you have to cure so many ballots. So the process that we have currently in place, in order to secure it, the way the audits say that we should secure it, is going to create a whole nother headache that we're not taking into consideration. And so that's an important discussion point in this as well, that I think people are missing. Lindsay, to your point on cost, yes, we think the state should cover the majority of the cost. We need to determine, okay, how much is the postage? How much are you going to be saving on labor, on the signature verification, going through the cure list, all the savings, you know, that needs to be put towards the new costs as well. So, yeah, we believe the state should cover the majority of the cost.
Mr.
So
Speaker,
how-
question on another
Yeah, let's
topic.
go to another topic.
Nearly 20 years ago, there was a proposal for a nuclear reactor. It met with, well, it wasn't taken seriously at the beginning, and then it met with opposition. Yesterday, the nuclear consortium bill passes out of the House 72-0.
Unanimous.
Are you surprised that there's no opposition?
I'm not, because nuclear today is so much safer, and we have so many more options out there today. And here's the number one thing. People want to have their lights turned on. We are running into an energy crisis in this nation. Nuclear is deemed as one of the most efficient ways and safest ways and environmental friendly ways to address the challenges ahead of us. So I'm not surprised by it.
Do you hear any opposition out there from any of the environmental groups?
I have not heard any. I'm not saying there's not any out there, maybe there is some, but then again, that question then becomes, then what? Well, if we're not gonna go nuclear, then what would we go to? Nobody knows, that's the problem. Everybody wants power. We're going to an age where more of our cars are being electrified, like, these are tough conversations to have, but in AI, we have more requests right now for energy for AI centers in the state of Utah than we're currently using, the whole state. Now, I'm not saying all of them are real, but that's what's out there. And whoever controls AI is going to control the world. Right now, China is ahead of us. It is a national security issue. That's why you're seeing the federal government race to it. We need to have these discussions. We need more energy. We have an energy shortage. We brought it up last year. We brought it up the year before. I'm glad that the rest of the nation has came on board with where Utah's been the last
So
several
on
years.
these AI requests, these are companies that are interested in locating here, who are making inquiries about power, or companies that are filing applications? What exactly?
Yeah, there's companies out there that have approvals from the local governments to put data centers, but they can't get the energy to put those data centers. And we're not willing to put at risk the current energy that Utahns are using to fulfill the needs of those data centers. So those Rocky Mountain Power is saying, no, we don't have the energy for those data centers. So they're trying to go to other places around the nation. Nobody has the energy for these data centers. That's a problem.
So we're losing these companies, is that what you're saying?
It's a possibility. Right now, yes. If there was another state that stepped up that could go put those data centers there, they would have them. And we're not saying we want all these data centers, because I don't think we do. But, these are just discussions that we're having. There's not enough energy out there to meet the needs. And again, it's important for us to prepare today for these options, because energy is such a huge issue. And, these small nuclear reactors, that's the thing right now. And they aren't, we're talking 4, 5, 6 years out, these small nuclear reactors could be a reality. The big scale ones, are probably 10+ years away, but it's important that we start the process now so that we have it.
I just have a couple of questions I was hoping to get on
Yes.
HB 300. One, clearly you've mentioned some of the changes you're looking at. How close do you think you are to getting a version of the bill that will be on the floor? And two, we saw some tribal representatives coming out of here as we came in. Were they meeting with you both? Is that a party that's talking about some changes they'd like to see?
So what?
The
Some
last part.
tribal representatives coming
Oh.
out of the House offices?
Oh,
Are
They've sort of, the tribal folks were here on the election bill.
No, I think the tribal stuff's,
I'm meeting with the tribal member, just after floor time to talk. I have significant experience in that area. I took 50 Navajos to Iraq with me the first time. Amazing soldiers. They have a difficulty, they have long distances to travel. We're talking closely with that county to make sure that the polling stations are available for them when we go to this voting. We're within days of being ready for this to hit the House floor. We're looking at some potential substitutes, not many, but a few. And then, as the speaker says, once that bill leaves here, the Senate gets their swing at it, and we're in negotiations. We've been very open with the Senate, and they have with us. And I think we're in a good place. I think you'll see something that the public's gonna appreciate eventually, maybe not at first, but I think they will. Bottom line is, to be one of only 7 or 8 states that does not require identification to be shown in voting. I go get a Costco card, I have to have ID. I cash a check somewhere, I have to have ID. This is not unreasonable, folks, to require ID to vote.
I mean, I think everybody's forgetting the fact that there will be an opt-in process, right? For those that want to opt in and continue to vote as they are voting and they trust the mail service, there will be an opt-in process. Those are some of the things that we're looking, what can we do to make those secure? The frequency of the opt-in is something that we're continuing to look at. We're talking about Florida model. Everybody talks about Florida being one of the models in the nation, best voting models in the nation. Is that the case? I don't know. We've been looking at the Florida model. We're gonna look at other states' models. We're gonna look at what Utah could do for opt-in. And I think that's where a lot of the discussion is going to be had, is what does that opt-in process look like? And to make sure that those that trust the Postal Service, that want to continue to do that, mail their ballot in, that they have that ability to do so.
Speaker, on Lisenby's voter rolls bill, the part about separating from Eric.
Yeah.
What happens if the state leaves Eric in July and there's not a tool or an agreement with another state that can replace it in the same scope? Doesn't it risk losing data?
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far into Representative Lisenby's bill, but there is problems with our voter rolls, and we do need to find a better system to make sure that we can clean up our voter rolls.
But is there something better than Eric that you know of?
I don't know for sure. I'm hearing that there are. That's a question for Representative Lisenby. I don't know the answer to that. I'm hearing that there is. Whether or not that's the case, I think needs to be sorted out, and those are discussions that will continue to happen.
And then part
Maybe
of
one more
voter-
question.
Sorry, does someone have another topic they need to do?
Can I ask about immigration?
Go.
We understand that there was a man who was recently pleading to a misdemeanor in a case, this is just last week, the prosecution was not seeking a jail sentence, but he was taken into ICE custody. This seems to go against what state leaders are saying. Can you comment on this?
I don't know enough about that situation. I know from the state perspective, and we've been told by the Trump administration, this is probably a better question for the governor, to be honest with you, because he's over that and that area. But from our perspective and what we understand is everybody's focused on the criminals. That's where we're focused on as a legislature. I understand that's what the Trump administration is focused on. I understand that's what the governor's focused on. If there's things out there happening outside of that, we're not aware of that. I have to bring up the question with the governor's office. He probably knows more about that than us. One more question?
Just a follow-up on that. A big focus of the legislature the past couple of years has been sovereignty in the federal government. There have been some local leaders who have alleged that ICE is overstepping its jurisdiction. I'm curious if that's something that the legislature is looking at, thinking about.
Yeah, again, whether or not ICE is overstepping its jurisdiction or not, I don't wanna get into that, but if ICE is overstepping its jurisdiction, then we would have problems with that. Regardless of what it is, we are a state that believes in state sovereignty. We would like to partner with some of the blue states that are out there right now that don't feel like, that feels like the federal government is overstepping their jurisdiction. And again, 10th Amendment means something, and state sovereignty means something. We want to manage Utah. Washington DC managing Utah is not what's best for Utahns. So, okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.